Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo. I am your host, the Harry Channel, and with me tonight are minions, a muted Geodes,
Hello.
DrFunctional,
Good evening.
Serenity Star 13,
Hello.
a very strangely iconed Sora Luna, and SkepTok.
Your favorite uncle.
It's amazing to think that's an actual picture of her. I didn't know she was a furry.
You're not as I pictured, sorry. You're not as I pictured.
I identify as a small bunny.
Big man
Yeah.
and small bunny.
So before we dive into tonight's news, does anybody
Did
have
you-
anything they'd like to share with the class?
Yes, did you introduce Serenity?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I absolutely missed that.
Nope.
I was scrambling to get my headphones on. Sorry about that.
That's
right.
okay.
Very good.
All right. Well, there's a lot to talk about, so we might as well dive right in because Functional's put together something for us. But first, we have to go through a few articles. One of the things we won't really be talking about tonight is this. Let's change the layout. There we go. Because everybody's already been basically talking about this, and we could just spend the next 60 minutes being outraged. It's like, screw these people. We're going to move on to talking about literally anything else.
Fauci and Rand Paul.
Yeah, and the Capitol Police have named a new police chief, which amazes me because this guy gives the appearance of being surprisingly competent.
He really does.
It's as if they finally said, maybe we should look for somebody with skill. not that the other people necessarily didn't have skill, but it's like they literally thought, I think skill is the one thing we're going to care about. We're not going to worry about representation or the guy being an old white male or anything else. We're just going to find a guy who's done the job for a few decades, who seems to have a freaking clue, and we're going to make him be in charge.
Maybe
and then
somebody
we'll all
with a
feel
track
better.
record. Somebody with a track record.
It's like they became afraid for the first time and realized that maybe law enforcement kind of matters.
Yeah,
Well,
this is
considering there was
getting
that
out of hand. The voters are going to vote us out of office. I'm sorry, Serena, I stepped on you.
Well,
No.
no, you're good. It was just there was a shooting last night in Washington D.C. in one of the nicer areas, and there was actually video of people like hiding behind tables and stuff like that. And I think Washington D.C. is starting to realize, like some other places, that we're way too reliant on the goodness of certain individuals and didn't realize that goodness is not a parameter setting for everybody.
Has everybody here has probably been to DC at one point or the other, right?
Oh,
I went to high school there. Yeah.
Well, there you go. I mean, I spent some time in DC. I had to go there for business at the very last minute, and I was sick as a dog. It was one of those, like, probably the first time in my life I thought, if this was 100 years ago, I'd be dead now. It was one of those kind of respiratory illnesses. And I was really surprised by just how run down a lot of DC was. It was very much, don't go for a walk through there. You're going to want to drive, because if you go for a walk, you're going to pay a toll every 10 feet.
Yeah,
And
that's
by
right.
toll, I mean there's going to be some hungry-looking people that are going to demand $20 from you.
Give me $20 or I'll
and
beat
over
the
again.
shit out of you. That is exactly.
Well, they don't even
what
have
will
to
happen.
make the threat. It's just, give me $20. and
No,
then you
that's
just give them
the
$20.
proposition. The
Yeah.
unspoken.
Yeah, the
proposition.
rest is implied. Is if you don't get with the program right away, the rest, the stick follows in short order. But DC
Yes,
is not
very
a great. It's not a great city in a lot of ways.
Oh no, it's not.
No, it's not a great city in any way except for the architecture. The people
Yeah.
who live there
Well, and the
are
art.
evil and corrupt and disgusting and amoral, and the Potomac smells like a fucking sewer. Always has smelled like shit. Go to Mount
almost
Vernon
like a
sometime. What's that smell? The Potomac, the one George Washington threw the silver dollar across, the assholes.
Yeah,
It's almost a literal swamp.
yeah.
They're almost there.
Fetid things.
One flood and it is-
Mosquitoes like fucking sparrows. I do not miss it.
Yeah, Prospero's right. Georgetown is very pretty. I've walked Georgetown. It's beautiful.
Georgetown
Alexandria
is
is
or
rather nice.
Alexandria. That's
Yeah.
Alexandria.
Alexandria is beautiful too. Don't go to Crystal City. Don't do it.
Well, Crystal City is it's sort of like almost like a tax haven. It seems to only
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
exist to provide mailing addresses for lobbyists and government contracting companies. I don't.
yeah.
Absolutely right.
Crystal City is not a city in which any human being with a brain lives. It's like a fiction. It's like I said. It's like a mailboxes, etc., that just has a bunch of buildings with tiny offices and mail slots. There's nothing to Crystal City.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
And the sad thing is that Crystal City used to have a beautiful mall.
Mm-hmm.
It had a mall you could go shopping in. You could ice skate. I used to go ice skating in Crystal City when I was in high school. It was awesome.
They did used to have that, didn't they?
Yeah, but the point
Yeah,
is
down
nobody
in the middle.
lives there.
No.
Sorry,
It's
I didn't mean to
sad.
step on you there. But I mean, nobody lives there. That mall, I remember hearing about that. It actually sounds really awesome.
It was
But,
beautiful.
Yeah, well, anyway. So, and this is the same party, that's pushing all this stuff. Democratic mayors who called to defund the police spent millions on their own security details. I don't think we really need to say much about this, but if you'd like to talk about what assholes these people are for a moment, please, the floor
I
is
am
open.
shocked. Shocked, I
Shocked.
say.
Well,
I know.
it's like the whole thing that happened with the just every single one of the like down the line of the BLM leaders, where they
Mhm.
spent millions of dollars buying several houses, and then they left BLM, and it's kind of like, why are you all shocked? I'm not saying the conservative side is clean. I'm not saying that, but most conservative people who are even trying to grift the conservative side will at least hold out for several years. My dog decided he wanted to talk.
Yeah. Well, here's a news article from just a few days ago. DC leaders struggle with rising crime after cutting police. Well, hopefully this new chief is going to get stuff taken care of, because this is a disgraceful way for our nation's capital to be run.
Have you heard him speak, Harry?
No, I haven't.
He sounds very competent.
Thank God.
I've
He
read
sounds
his
like he
I've read
wants-
his CV. He sounds very competent on paper too.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. But one thing about him is, I think his frustration level had better be high, because he is going to get pushback from the stuff that he wants to do. He is going to want to do that, knocking on doors and broken window policing that turned New York City around. He wants to do that. He is going to get a ton of pushback from the criminals who live in DC, our capital. Jesus.
Yeah. And are the criminals the politicians or the criminals? I'm not sure if we're talking euphemistically after
Also,
that.
yes.
Well, no, they're just two different kinds of criminals.
Okay.
They're both objects of type criminal. Okay, so
They're in the basket of criminality.
Exactly, but the instances have make use of different properties.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
Let's
it's nice.
see.
It'll be fun.
And in Democratic City crime, there was this thing.
This
that
is
was
the one I
posted-
wanted to talk about.
Oh, well, why don't you... there's the headline. I'm in shock. 3 women attacked in the middle of the day in New York City Park.
Yep.
Go right ahead, Skep.
As some of you know, I used to live in Manhattan. It wasn't for a very long time, just about a total of 3 months. But I went all over Manhattan. And I actually went to a park that is just south. I think it's called Fort Tryon Park, just south of Inwood Hill. But I always used to see signs to Inwood Hill. But if you walk north that way from the park I used to go to, you would smell the salt marsh. And it's a disgusting smell. It's a horrifying smell. And it's too bad, because it's a really pretty area. I wanted to go up there and see the caves. People say there are no caves, except for subways, in Manhattan. Wrong again. They actually have prehistoric caves in that park, and nature trails, and they've really done it up nice. It was a little bit more rugged when I was in 1980, when I was living in Manhattan, but that was a pretty rough neighborhood. Now it's up in the 200s. People call that the 200s, which means way, way north of Harlem. And there are some really rough rough neighborhoods up there, and there's also what they call state housing, or low income family housing up there, and those are just hotbeds of criminality and drugs and whatnot. So, but the weird thing about this park is, and it really is picturesque. I've only seen pictures. Like I said, I've never been there myself, but I'm sure it's very similar to Fort Tryon. And it actually was I think it's the park that had a very interesting named fort that was a part of it. It was called Fort Cock, C-O-C-K. I shit you not. And that was the first place that fell when the British attacked New York. And if you know roughly what happened during the Revolutionary War, New York actually fell to the British. Things were looking really grim, and Washington crossing the Delaware was about reacting to the defeat in New York. But anyway, getting back to all this, essentially, this has become a upscale yuppie place for people to walk around in and stroller their babies and walk around and so forth. And I think this is really shocking to the people who live in that area, that the people from, it's actually about 10 blocks away, the really bad part of town, about 10 or 15 blocks away, would come all the way up to the park and start attacking people. But that's evidently what happened.
In the middle of the day, yeah.
A bunch of bangers, yeah. Exactly.
Well,
yeah.
That's going back to the 70s and 80s in New York City. That happened all the time.
Yeah, but that was the heart of the city. That was Central Park area. This is way north. This is the northwest tip of Manhattan. This is this is right before you get into what they call downstate New York. You cross that little river right there. That's actually the beginning. I think it's the beginning of the East River. You cross that river there, and you're in New York State. You're not in New York City anymore. That's actually the city limit. It is the northwest part of that park is the city limit of Manhattan. Is the borough limit of Manhattan. So this is up in the tippy top, and it's like 50 streets north of the highest of the good part, actually, of Harlem. The bad part of Harlem is farther south. Or at least it used to be. This changes over time, so my information may be a little stale. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to say a few things about it because I had a little bit of experience with that area anyway, and if not the park.
I wonder if the pattern holds, though, that because they aren't mentioning skin color, we all know the skin color of the suspect. Okay, they did? Okay.
Hispanic.
Oh, well.
Imagine my shock.
Women in their between 30s and 40s.
That means they're from the east side.
Certain type.
They're from the east side. Yeah, because the blacks have the west side pretty sewn up, especially in Harlem. But East Harlem was Spanish Harlem.
Yeah.
You can't afford the music to.
No one's singing it. No one's singing it.
But like Skep says, yeah, this is shocking for that area, like entirely. This kind of stuff does not, and nobody in mainstream news programs barely mentioned it.
Well, of course,
shocking.
But so has the new mayor been voted for yet, or is it still waiting for election for New York City? Because I thought there was a.
Not sure.
Check.
No, de Blasio is still the mayor, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Well, I heard.
Has he been killed? Please.
No,
No,
I don't.
Out loud, just thinking out loud there.
And Skep,
We don't endorse political assassination here at
No,
the
we
of the
don't.
Zoo.
Someone
But happy accidents. Lightning is totally beyond our control. That's totally fine. Hits him on top of his stupid head.
Meteorites are a thing.
Meteorites. Blue ice, I think, would be a fitting end to that guy.
In the mouth.
Yeah, the election
went all the way through his body and out his ass.
The election for New York's mayor is in November. Everybody's saying Eric Adams is going to win.
Okay.
Yeah, that's because he is.
Well, I mean, he's a Democratic black man.
He's going to win. He is going to win. Whoever got the Democratic nomination is going to win the election. You're not going to have a Republican mayor of New York. That's just going to. That John Lindsay is dead.
It's one of those things I wish.
I did that for Prospero. I hope she heard that.
The thing about Eric Adams is, even though he's affiliated with the Democratic Party,
he is more of an older school liberal. He's that hard on crime, wants to bring back policies like stop and frisk because they were demonstrably effective.
They worked. Yeah. Well, it's
immensely so, to the point where when they took those policies away, violent crime, specifically shooting crime, again, another department of the New York City Police Department that they disbanded, dropped crime by significant percentages over the years.
Yeah.
And when they got rid of them, they spiked again. And he came in and he said, I don't care. They worked. I'm going to reinstitute similar policies. And people were looking around, New Yorkers, and going, yeah, okay. Because they look at other cities like Baltimore, like Chicago, and they're like, no,
Detroit.
Never again. We don't want to go back to that level of hellhole. We were okay with our 90s level hellhole.
Well, the thing is that they also can't call him racist for bringing it back. Because I remember when Stop and Frisk first happened, and people were like racist, and it's like you can't do that to a black Democrat.
The supposed person to give him the most run for his money got ousted in the first round. She's half black, and called him racist because he supported those policies. He's a black man.
He's got more black than you do, bitch.
Not that I'm saying that your skin color doesn't denote your level of ability to be a racist, but he understands it better than you do. He's from those parts of the city. You're from the Upper West Side or something. So detached from reality, this woman, and it was very good and telling that she just got immediately outed because she got no support, even though the media was full bore behind her.
The only part of New York that is more out of touch with reality than the Upper West Side is the Upper East Side.
Very true.
And trust me, that's the truth.
How about the governor's office? Surprising no one, Department of Justice drops Cuomo nursing home deaths investigation.
I am
the
shocked.
Justice Department has decided not to open a civil rights investigation into government-run nursing homes in New York over their COVID-19 response, according to a letter sent Friday to several Republican members of Congress. Under former President Donald Trump's administration, the department's Civil Rights Division requested data last August from 4 states: New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, because Whitmer is just delightful, about the number of COVID-19 infections and deaths in public nursing homes. The request came amid still unanswered questions about whether some states, especially New York, inadvertently worsened the pandemic death toll by requiring nursing homes to accept residents previously hospitalized for COVID-19. And the rest is a bloody, horrible, tragic history for which they will not be held responsible for.
No.
Because the current administration and the FBI and all these other people just not interested in opening old wounds. It's time to all become Cuomo-sexual and move forward, I guess.
These justice departments are anything but at this point.
That's because no
They're
one's
not
riding
about
their
justice.
asses. Well, no one's riding their ass about it. That's the thing. Like, there's no reason to do anything because you literally have the bumbling one.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, it's town hall. But anyway, you have Saki, you have the cackler. Like,
there was immense legal pressure though from the people's families, the victims' families.
Oh, I hope they go through with it like a civil case.
A civil suit. That's what I'm thinking is the next step.
Janice Dean is not going away.
Good.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of attempt to be made whole on the parts of the family. It won't. I don't think it'll be personally pecuniary, meaning that it will attach direct financial liability to Cuomo, but it can at least be a chance for the families to recover. You know, it'd probably be a class action suit. They'll probably get $15 each, and the lawyers will make
the thing is, but it would also set precedent, which might give the families in Michigan a chance to go after
a precedent that it's wrong to kill old people.
Well, you know
I
how
like
it
this
works.
precedent.
We're going to kill old invalid people who can't take care of themselves as they have to be put in
To
sniff?
knowingly put infectious
What a
people into nursing homes with some of the most vulnerable people. Gee, I wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just,
okay.
that makes me sick.
So hold on. So the theory that they're saying was that they felt that nursing homes would be able to deal with this because they deal with the flu and things like that on an ongoing basis. Well, they deal with the flu by vaccinating people and a lot of hand washing and stuff, which does nothing for stopping a novel virus for which you have no vaccination. That has an R0 that's a lot worse than the flu. It's more like trying to keep measles under control in a situation like that. And so, I mean, I can accept that. The big problem here is once they knew they were doing the wrong thing, they lied about it and tried to cover it up.
Harry, I think that's an important point. When did they know they were doing the wrong thing? And here's what I think may have happened. And I'm not trying to excuse Cuomo, not in any way. I think he's more just an incompetent administrator than he is he didn't keep his eye on the ball he should have been keeping his eye on. And the governor's office is a busy office. There's lots of stuff to do. And this was just one more problem. What are we going to do about the COVID thing? I don't know. Put the old people in nursing homes. That's where they belong. They'll probably be safe there. He may not have even given it that much thought. I think this is one of those things where it really was a true error, a true lapse in judgment on his part. I don't think he did it maliciously at all.
Yeah, I don't think
he's just incompetent, not evil.
This was not malicious intent. This was not like, I'm going to kill all the old people.
Right.
This is not like the tinfoil hat. We need to kill the old people because they vote conservative, like I've heard some people bullshit say. And it's like, no.
Although I wouldn't put it past Whitmer.
I wouldn't put it past Whitmer, but
Whitmer's evil.
But I can get on board with the notion that Cuomo's just too incompetent.
Yeah, I don't think he deliberately set out to kill Gramps. I think that was just a thing that unfortunately happened.
Yeah.
But he's not the kind of person to take responsibility for his screw ups either.
If he would have just come out and said, like, it still would have been a little bit of a shitstorm, but if he would have said something along the lines of, by the time we realized it was too late, I am sorry, I take full responsibility for this, or something like that, it would have lessened a great deal what would have happened to him. But
if we search all the transcripts of all the video we have of him, is there any instance where he said he took full responsibility for anything?
Oh yeah, I know.
I think
because I don't think you're going to find it. The right thing to do, any one of us in his position would have, once they realized what the mistake was, would have immediately moved all of those people out and taken whatever steps were required to basically protect life. But he's such a political animal, and I mean that in the worst possible way, that I think he sort of figured, well, what's done. We just have to minimize the political damage at this point.
Well, I think Prospero named it pretty well in chat. Her comment, like next to last comment, once they knew they didn't alter the policy, that's kind of sums it up pretty good right there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's not like, as Prospero pointed out, Rachel Levine took her mother out of a nursing home prior to Wolf enacting the policy. That looks like malice aforethought. Yeah, it's like people did know, and you can kind of tell that they knew. Like I just don't think that the beginning goal was let's kill all the old people.
Oh yeah.
Everything after that, I think there was a point soon after that where it all turned evil pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, it was just keep it quiet, keep it quiet, keep it quiet.
Yeah.
Kind of thing after a certain point, and it didn't work. Because who would have thought the internet finds everything out eventually?
Or though, because the DOJ is dropping it.
Well,
if you'll move back to New York and pay ridiculous taxes, he'll make you dinner.
Mm.
Did you anybody else see that clip?
Mm-hmm.
There's been some stupid old men making some stupid old clips in the last few days. I don't think
I'll bet you that man knows how to make a pretty good clams with linguine. Just call it a hunch.
You know, it's better than getting a fast food meal like McDonald's, like that one guy did.
Yeah,
not-
I mean, New York is great, and the reason it's great is because it makes me feel a lot better about being in California, because I can just go,
Which-
well, at least I don't live there.
There's
There
not
you
many
go.
places that can do that for you, Harry.
Yeah, I know. There's not a lot out there that makes me feel good about that sort of thing. Let's see. What is the next thing? This is okay. We have different sections here. I should probably just make banners, because the first section was
Yeah.
the thin blue line, and we're in what's now called the waggy finger of shame. So let's see what is next in the waggy finger of shame. Would somebody like to talk about this?
Oh, this bitch.
Well, why don't you talk about it, Sora? You've been quiet. Talk about this
Sorry, I had to
bitch.
step away for a phone call. I apologize.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
All right, hold on. Let me open this up. It's easier for me.
Okay.
Waggy.
This is
There.
the one.
Ministers are privately worried about COVID spreading through farting. I'm sorry. This is the first thing I saw.
Oh, never mind.
Dear
I can't.
Lord.
I have an ad block. It won't let me see the button.
Oh, okay. Okay. So basically here, German reporter
there
caught
we go.
muddying herself to
Yes.
pretend she helped flood cleanup.
But don't
Hey,
worry.
podcast.
Don't worry. She admits that she'll do better.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is a
boy.
mistake, and she's gonna do better.
Yeah,
Oh,
this
boy.
low bar
Great.
that I've set, I will definitely do better at not getting caught black-facing myself with mud next time. No, a broadcast journalist has been suspended after she was caught apparently smearing herself in mud before filming a report in a German town devastated by flash floods. Is anybody here following the situation in Germany in terms of the flash
Oh,
floods?
yeah.
Have you guys seen the
yeah.
video?
Yes.
That's
Oh.
That's the part of town I grew up in.
Gott und Himmel, that is the worst. Those are some of the worst flash floods I've seen in a long time. Certainly in an area where there's like civilization.
And they've had a couple weeks ago. They've had electrical storm after electrical storm. So there hasn't even been kind of breaks
Plus,
in the weather.
that's a part of Europe that has amazing flood control and drainage. They have worked on that for not years. They've worked
Yeah.
on that for centuries, and they've got it down. You know, the fact that the Netherlands is as big as it is a tribute to the kind of engineering that you find among the Dutch and German flood control guys. They are very likely, other than some of the Chinese guys, some of the best in the world at controlling flood. This really caught them by surprise. I don't care about this journalist. She's an attention-seeking missile, and fuck her.
Yeah.
If she wants to, say, look at me, and get credit for something she didn't do. Fuck her into the next century. I don't even want to talk about her, but the problems that floods like that bring an awful lot of people, and there are a ton of people. That is really densely populated up there. It's a mess. It's a real problem. I
Yep.
feel so sorry for them. There's not much more I can say, but one thing I do know is they will get this solved and fixed.
Mhm.
Well, the big issue beyond the horrible shit that's happened is the fact that the opportunists are using this to say, this is climate change. This is climate change. We're all going to die. See, we have to do the Green New Deal. See. And it's like,
Oh my God, I hate them.
They do that after every large storm. Look, we had 4 more tropical storms this year than last year.
well, I mean, it is
Chicken
kind of
Little, the
what,
sky's falling.
what is
Yeah,
kind of what Mr. Adams said. There's flooding everywhere. Like China's had horrible flooding once again. Japan's having issues with flooding. The part of, like you said, Europe that doesn't normally have these issues is having it. There's parts of England. So there's...
You have to understand that this flooding happened in a part of Europe that gets 200 days or more of rain a year. These guys are used to having a lot of water around. It makes England look like a fucking sunshiny paradise. The Low Countries in this part of the Rhineland. But anyway, there are corrupt journalists everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the Anderson Cooper when he was in the canoe.
Mhm.
Someone walked
I didn't
behind
walk
him and it was
by and
like
it's
their
like a-
ankle.
I know. That was beautiful.
A journalist lying about the situation, or at least lying about their situation, calm shock and awe, whatever.
Or like the one journalist who was
Color
caught
you surprised?
being on his knees in
There you go.
supposedly flood water, and someone took a picture of him standing up from the kneeling position. Like, this is just all you can do at this point is go, "You're a piece of shit reporter," but this is fucking funny. That's all you can do at this point. Laugh at their asses.
And if
How
you
do these
live in that
people still
area,
show
just
up?
dump dirty water on them.
Oh yeah,
Oh, you're helping. Are you here? Help some more.
that's what I would have done. Oh, you want to help? Shush, there.
It's not dirty water.
I would have
It's not
enlisted some
water.
friends and taken her and thrown her in one of the many, many canals in that area.
Oh yeah.
And
Canal
now you
water,
have E. coli.
by the way, if you've ever been to Holland or Venice, canal water is the dirtiest water, and it's the dirtiest water on earth.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah, it's the nasty toilet water.
I've been to Thailand, and the canals in Thailand were cleaner than the ones in Holland.
Well,
Shit,
yeah.
you not?
Because they still use the old methods, and the old methods work.
Maybe it's possible.
At least that's what I've been told.
All of this that you're talking about reminded me of a meme. And
Uh-oh.
it's the one that I may have sent this to some of you, because this is depressing. Let's see, this
And he was unable to have an erection for 2 years.
it goes on for a little bit with him trying to get in the boat and the women falling out, and then they're all just walking around pushing their shovel boat for no good
Yes.
reason.
And yeah,
It looks
People
like
should be
a boat is-
ashamed laughing at that. Those people are heroes.
That is a,
I
that
feel
is
so
a
much
plastic
safer already. Functional, you have no idea.
Yeah, there's your thin blue line for you right there.
That looked like the worst, most unseaworthy boat I have ever seen. It looked like a plastic child's wash tub. So
Yeah, I'm not even sure what that is. It looked like they took the plastic lid off of a dumpster and decided to make it into a boat.
Yes,
It looks
exactly.
fun.
Same color. Yeah. No, you're
I
right.
just
Yeah,
love
if it
all
was
the-
if it was snowing, you could definitely get 3 or 4 kids
Oh,
on
that would've
there
been
and just
awesome.
yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
that-
But
Yeah, be good for that, but as
Wax
a boat,
paper.
it sucks. The thing almost capsized as soon as she got in.
yeah,
Yeah.
just walk. Just you're going to get your
Just
pants
walk.
wet. Just walk.
Put,
Put down the shovel.
put some
and walk.
Wellingtons on, and walk in the wellies.
Yeah,
Take
It's that
some,
lower center of gravity, Skep.
just take some wax paper to the bottom of the sled, then just fly down the hill in traffic. It's how you die as
Alright.
a child.
well, jocularity. Let's see. Okay. From the dailymail.com, we have this fine story. Exclusive. If I'd
not
been
wrong.
a young black gay woman, I'd have been okay. 2-minute ad agency JWT wins sex discrimination case after gay female director vowed to obliterate Mad Men reputation of being full of white straight men.
This is J. Walter Thompson. This is one of the most exclusive, big-time advertising firms in Britain. It's big in the United States, as a matter of fact. J.W. Thompson. I mean, it's like Bozell and Jacobs, J.W. Thompson. You know, there's just like 4 or 5 that you can name. It's like the old seven sisters of the consulting business, Harry.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a big deal. Got a lot of attention, and it looks like, you know, this hot trot CEO got in there and with her, you know, black gay girlfriend. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but she's extremely militant about getting rid of cis white men. And she started to get rid of them to correct the imbalance in women's pay rates so she could start hiring women and they would get paid and the men would not. Because in her mind, that's justice. That is good. And these guys said, we know an attorney. We're going to talk to him. And sure enough, they won their case. And some of the sex discrimination stuff was thrown out if you read the decision. Don't get distracted by that, because that stuff was thrown out because the judge said it didn't affect certain aspects of the case, and that was a technical move on the judge's part. But he found enough issues that they raised to award them compensation, and I'll bet it's quite a bit.
And there was 2 others, I think, that took that were not a part of the lawsuit because they took
Early retirement,
well, that
or
they
a
settled
severance package. Yeah, they got a severance package. Which the thing is, you know, when someone sits you down to do that, your career is over the minute she calls you into her office. And so what you say is, okay, you want me to leave? Am I going to have to sue you for a severance package, or did you want to talk about that right here, right now? Mm-hmm. You have to keep your head in those moments like that. That's what having my own businesses taught me. When, you know, there are moments when big things occur on that have a lot of follow-on effect, and that's I don't think these guys. I think these guys got canned. They were shell-shocked. They walked out of the place and said, "Hey, let's go talk to a lawyer." They did, and voila, the CEO probably needs to meet with the board and get her severance package.
Yeah.
In my opinion, she's not showing management smarts at all.
Who enters? Who enters? Like, you have been awarded this high position. Who enters a job and outright says, "Hey, yeah, here's the people I'm painting the targets on your back. Have fun." Like,
well, I'll tell you who it is. It's someone who took a first in graphic design and has never had a management course or any management experience in her life.
she has in one of the pictures, and of course these are handpicked by the Daily Mail, so I'm sure they found the best ones to kind of paint her in a certain light. But she's wearing this T-shirt, it's the one where she's eating with her fiance, and it's one of those "why be racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, whatever" that when you could be quiet.
Yeah.
I hate that you've
Right
seen
here.
it in T-shirts. Yeah, that's the one. You see it in T-shirts and posters. I think that is probably one of the best descriptions of how she is as a person.
Is that her fiance?
Yeah, on the right, that's Sophie something or other is her fiance.
I love the. Yeah, her name is actually Sophie Blowme. I shit you not.
Well,
That's her name.
Blowfield.
Blowfield.
Okay, Blowfield. I thought it was Blowme.
Not
Anyway,
even Blofeld, so she's not even a Bond.
yeah, she's not even a
villain.
Bond. You know, that's what I. Okay, but I noticed that the CEO is wearing a T-shirt that I actually have one. Mine says, "Why be racist, sexist, homophobic when you can be a serial killer?" Hers may not read exactly like mine, but
Yeah.
You mean cereal as in food, or do you mean actual cereal?
either.
Okay.
A serial killer who eats a cereal-eating serial killer.
There you go.
Part of
One
your
thing I
bell
wanna-
breakfast.
Yeah,
House of
Minions of
Sausage.
the Zoo does not endorse the serial killing
Cannibalism.
of anybody.
Yeah,
Especially Count Chocula, because that's delicious.
Yeah, exactly.
One
You were going to
thing I
say
wanted
something functional?
bring attention to is that Joe Wallace, the creative director that was hired, she was appointed to help lose the company's, quote, Knightsbridge Boys Club reputation. And, when you hear that sort of, boys club, what was the other one? Serenity, the frat boy atmosphere. My ears immediately perk up and go, wait a minute, where have I heard this before? Oh, right, it's third wave feminism.
Yeah.
Creeping.
Well,
its
I've actually
ugly-
seen I've seen examples of that, and it still lingers in one part of
Sure.
IT, which is sales. There are still a few guys working in IT sales who kind of fit that frat boy thing. They're like 50, 60-year-old frat boys. Because you almost need somebody with a ridiculously outgoing character to start cold calling people and talking about toner.
And
when
a
you
thick
had
skin, too, by the way.
people
Yeah,
working
and you need somebody
together-
who has that level of cluelessness that they don't mind being told no 100 times
Yeah.
when you have
before they get
these,
told yes once.
these guys who've been working together for 30 plus years, and some new person comes in and starts telling them that they're lesser than, or that they have this boys club. It's like, who the fuck are you? This is my friend. I've been working with him for, decades now. Of course there's going to be that level of tight-knit camaraderie, and just pulling an assumption that she's the type of person to see that and immediately go, oh, well, this is a boys club. This is a frat house. And that's why my ears perk up, because, that seems to be how things like this play out.
Luckily, we're getting rid of that camaraderie and brotherhood in the U.S. military. I'm sure that will make it a much more effective fighting force.
Let's get rid of that boys club.
Talking about the compensation of men versus women, I know there are numerous examples that I've heard of over the years where they've gone through and done an analysis of what people are getting paid and found that the women were actually making more. This happened not that long ago in Australia. The Australian government said, we're going to, I think it was Queensland, the provincial government said, we're going to go through and audit all this stuff and make sure that, fix all the problems with women being underpaid. Turned out they were overpaid.
They did have the women's soccer team too, I think.
Well, we're going to talk about the women's soccer team in just a moment. That's coming up here in this
And it
fine
also
arc.
happens
So,
here in the education system.
yeah, it's happened a bunch of times. So I thought Google was a perfect example. Google found it paid men less than women for the same job. This is from, I think, 2019. Let's see. And the story we're used to hearing is that women get paid less than men. In Google's case, according to its own internal pay audit, it turned out male-identified level 4 software engineers received less money than women in that same role. That led to Google paying $9.7 million to adjust pay for 10,677 employees. Now, obviously, 9.7 into 10,000 employees, it's probably not a huge imbalance, but the fact that they had to adjust to stop underpaying the men to begin with gave you a pretty good idea of what was going on. And I'm a little bit sympathetic, because if your goal is to have a workforce that's somewhat more representative, and you're in a discipline where people graduating from universities with tech degrees in IT-related fields are like 10 to 1 male, and you're a company like Google, you have to pay the women more basically to get them to work for Google and put in those ridiculous hours versus some other place. The trouble is that then you go and do these audits and realize, oh yeah, we actually paid the women more because we were trying to attract them away from other companies. Because everybody wants to have the population of their workforce look like the general population instead of the population of graduates. I hope I phrased that okay.
No, that's perfect. That's exactly right, and that's a great point. There are a lot of roughly a little more women graduate from college than men. But if you confine that to information technology, that's not true anymore. And if you take out the programmers, it's really not true, because most of the people who go into most of the women who go into IT are programmers. They're not systems folk. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know those things have kind of come together since I was active in the industry here, but
yeah, and this is in no way representative of the the whole field, but I ended up going to switching from working for one company to another company at the same location. And the day I started as a department manager with a couple divisions under me, not divisions, but groups under me, the very first thing I did was put on my wool jacket and go to a recruiting thing to gather some people. And the very first person I hired was a young woman who just got her master's degree from Boston University. She was easily one of the best people I've ever hired. She did fantastic work. And it was my pleasure from Boston University. She was my pleasure to have her work for me. And, we were pretty decent friends for people that work together. And as soon as I basically left to go be independent, she quit and squeezed out a couple kids and got married and did all that stuff. And she's happy as a clam. Every now and then I get mail from her saying, "Hey, vote for my kids in this contest." I go, "Okay, sure." And then here, have a free
You're
vote.
on a distro list.
And I'm not saying that there aren't women who I know plenty of women who've worked in tech till they're 60 something, but there is a bit of an attrition rate, and it definitely seems to be higher amongst the women than the men, because a lot of women just go, "Yeah, I kind of think the work's interesting and I'm good at it, but I don't want to do this." And that decision gets made by some people before they even go to college. People choose. They may just want to do something else, and that's what freedom does.
Let me ask you a question about this. When was the
Sure.
last time? When was the last time that the difference in life choices, patterns, path between men who can continue to work even if their family has a new addition and women who have to stop working periodically? When was, if you did a cost analysis of that, you will find the women cost you substantially more. A person who is a female, if you just separate it out that way, and it's a little misleading, I realize that personalities are a thing too, but you'll find that because of the pregnancy aspect, because of sometimes being attached to a significant other who needs to move or whatever, that's less of a problem now, but it used to be a problem. Because of those things, women cost substantially more than men. Period. Men are great.
Well, I'm just saying that Google.
They make
I totally
babies and they
understand
come
why,
to work.
Yeah, why Google might have to pay more to the women to get the people that they need, because they're competing in this pool, and there's only so much labor to go around, and they want to make their numbers. So I'm just trying to think, what would I do if I was in their position, and this is the goal I wanted to accomplish. You have to either pay people more, or you have to create an environment that gives them other types of incentives in terms of flexible time off and other types of benefits that they might get. And Google does that aggressively. I know one woman who's a manager for Google, and she dropped down to 4 days a week because she wants to spend more time with her kids, and she took the pay cut. And that was a choice that she just made. That doesn't mean
the company took the output cut.
Yeah. Well, she's very good at her job. I mean, I like to think my friends are confident. She's very good at her job. But, she had this choice. She decided,
4 days, this 5.
There's going to come a point where she's lying there with her family around her about to slip off her mortal coil, and I doubt she's going to think, "Gosh, I wish I'd worked more hours."
No, in fact, that's an old saying, when you're on your deathbed, you'll never wish you worked, more.
And
but let's talk
Serenity,
about the
I bet
women's
Google
soccer
has
team.
lactation rooms.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. That's the only way you can get an office there. Everybody else is working basically in shared tables. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the U.S. women's soccer players' appeal against the decision that was against them. So they were basically claiming, but the men's got way more money when they didn't win the World Cup than we did when we did. And this has been covered. They took it to court, and Megan Rapinoe has been making a lot of noise. And, what's the other woman's name? Alex Morgan's been part of this thing. And, of course, Joe Biden talked about what a travesty it was, because we're not paying women equally. So according here to the AP, they're going to try to appeal this thing. Your players led by Alex Morgan asked the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals on Wednesday to reinstate the part of their suit that U.S. District Judge R. Gary Klausner threw out last May when he granted a partial summary judgment to the U.S. Soccer Federation. For each win, loss, and tie that women players secure, they are paid less than men who play the same sport and who do the same work, which is gender discrimination. Player spokesliar Molly Levinson said in a statement. A pervasive atmosphere of sexism drove this pay discrimination. Now, this is complete, utter, unadulterated horseshit.
Yes.
And the summary judgment, the partial summary judgment, basically said, and I'm just sort of paraphrasing without looking at notes, that the men essentially were all on professional MLS teams. So they had insurance and other types of things from those teams. So they were paid for the number of games they played and the number of things they won. And that was basically pay for play. As opposed to the women who, in their negotiations a few years ago, opted to have like minimum salaries in the $60,000 something range, benefits, disability pay, time off, just a whole nice package of stuff that they get, regardless of if they play even one game. And FIFA, in terms of the bonuses that are given out, because even though the U.S. women have done a really good job of monetizing things, we take all these nice photogenic women and send them out to sell all sorts of things. They've been able to bring in a lot of money. But the bottom line is that FIFA, the big organization for the world, gives the women $4 million total to U.S. women's soccer if the U.S. women win the World Cup, versus like some ridiculous number like 90 million for the men. And the women, and of which the male players would get 9 million. That would be split up in terms of bonuses for them. But the women are saying we should get 9 million even though FIFA is only paying the US 4 million. So that extra 5 million comes from potato.
Right. And that was they are complaining about a contract they negotiated. Are they not?
They were offered the men's deal and they rejected it.
Yeah. And they took
they could have had the men's deal, but they didn't
pay.
want the men's deal because essentially for them, this is more like a full-time job. And even if you break it down by the number of games they played, they make more money if you factor it, without even factoring in all the extra benefits, they actually made more money per game played than the men did.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
You know, they also,
especially
when
when
you
you-
look at total compensation, they make a lot more money too.
It has to be in comparison to the revenue that the club and league generate. So they make a higher percentage of the incoming revenue through the club than the men do. Even though, you know, flat numbers, yes, the men get paid more.
That's because
But
men's
their
soccer actually
companies,
brings in money.
Exactly, they have
Yeah.
to bring in money, and if one club's bringing in 100 and the other club's bringing in 100 million, and the other club's bringing in 1 million, then if that one club they're getting paid 500,000, the other people are getting paid 100,000. They're getting paid way more of a percentage.
Well, men's soccer is much, much bigger than women's soccer.
Massive.
You know, professionally, it's got to be at least 50 to 100 times as large. That's the kind of order of magnitude you're talking about.
Mhm.
It's an industry for them, and it's just a cottage industry, really, for the women, in my opinion. And
It is
There may,
nothing.
there may be reasons for that. And I think in the pre-show, I simply said, look, I have actually worked professionally with 2 professional women's sports organizations in my life. It was my pleasure to do it again. They were both fantastic. Both of the sports were interesting. One was with the ABL, which was the thing that got wiped out by the WNBA at one point. And I really enjoyed watching the women actually play basketball the way it's supposed to be played, instead of acting like 8-foot-tall mutants who can just alley-oop and slam dunk and, you know, they don't.
Gary likes the
They
fundamentals.
travel all
men's
the
game.
time, plowing
Right.
through people. I do not find professional men's basketball to be in any way appealing. If I want to watch mutants do things, that's what anime's for, right? You can
actually, if you want,
shoot some
if you
lasers
want-
out of your eyes. But, well, hold
you
on
want
one
good-
second. And the other one was with a team that was trying to put together a what's the yachting thing with the with the cup for the yachting. I can't remember. America's Cup.
The America's Cup. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually worked with a group that was trying to put together an America's Cup bid. And so these were really interesting things, and I got to hang out with some of the people, and I talked to the organizers, and I've gone to some of the games and met with some of the players afterwards. Had a great time, you know. So I mean, you can't tell me that I'm not sympathetic to this. On the other hand, there are a lot of people who I know who despise soccer.
Yeah.
And they don't like it because they say it's boring and it's slow. Now, women's soccer
Yes.
is even more boring and more slow. Now, you may, if you're into the game and you enjoy the fundamentals of it,
Yep.
that is absolutely fine. However, you have to deal with stuff like this. Football Club Dallas under 15 boys team squad beat the U.S. women's national team in a scrimmage.
Okay. We need to talk about this a little bit because
We
got
do,
a
and
lot
there's-
of play here in Texas.
This does, but this also, talking about the difference between male and female sports performance. It is a real thing. It is not a social construct. There is a website that some insane person put together that basically looks at male high school athletes via female versus female Olympians in several different track and field things. And it basically says if you took the best male high schoolers in the United States and put them up against the best female Olympians, who would win in given events?
Right.
And these high school boys
Destroy
almost
them.
uniformly just destroy all the women. And again,
Yeah.
remember, I actually enjoy women's sports, some of them, because I like the fact they focus on the fundamentals. I'm not a bad guy here, but at the same time, I don't blame somebody for not wanting to watch soccer played by women, especially if they don't even like soccer played by men. So
women's
go
beach
ahead.
volleyball.
Go ahead, Skep, because you do need to add some context to this. I just wanted to get that kind of set up.
Okay. This was what they call a friendly. You familiar with the concept of friendlies? What
yeah.
a friendly is in soccer?
Yeah, this
And
also isn't the only time this has happened, though.
No. And so it's important to take that into account. And the account of people who saw the game it started out real friendly. It was very friendly, with lots of mugging around, and the women were hugging these 15-year-old boys, just mugging and taking pictures and all the stuff. All the pictures you see, those are almost all before the match was played. Then they start playing the match, and they're finding out these 15-year-old boys, and it's 15 and under. It's FC Dallas. It's actually the old Dallas Burn, and they play up in Frisco, Texas, and which is just way north of Plano. It's almost practically in fucking Oklahoma. But anyway, so the women's team comes in. They start playing back and forth. It's kind of going along well, but they're noticing how much faster the boys are getting to the ball, even though their skills in ball handling were not as good. And the boys just start raiding, just run past them. They just ran past them. And it turned out that they were able to do that all game. And what happened was they said it started out to be a friendly game. And by the end of the game, the women were taking cheap shots at the boys and everything.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
But yeah, it was embarrassing, and it showed really lousy sportsmanship on their part, because they didn't want to get nailed. They did not want to lose to this team, even though it was a friendly, and you're not supposed to care, and it's just time on the turf and blah blah blah. And I watch soccer. I'm a soccer fan. I like soccer. I grew up playing soccer in Belgium, and when I came back to the United States, I was the best soccer player you'd ever seen, but I had nobody to play soccer with. So anyway, the upshot of all this was that the women's team was very frustrated. They had a meeting about it, and all of a sudden, when they came out of the meeting, they were unfrustrated. And they were all sweetness and smiles and so forth. And it's very evident that they either had a chance to cool down and, weren't that pissed off about it anymore, or someone told them to cool their jets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, that's the story that we heard here.
I mean, if you watch anything with Morgan, what the hell her name is, Rapinoe, She gets pissy at the drop of a hat.
Oh my God, yes, she's
Like, you could breathe on her in the
Very
wrong
quick to
direction,
anger.
and she's
Yeah.
just raw. And I'm like, wow, you've got to be terrifying to be in a relationship with. Someone puts the
of a certain
glass to
doctor.
her. But it's
I
it's
have
that
trouble
problem.
with relationships.
Yeah, no rock. But it's one of those things where it's kind of like, I heard. Of course, my dog's barking. But I heard rumors through the mill about like how mad she was after that, and I don't know how true the rumors were, but essentially someone from the home office called them and said, "You're going to chill the fuck out, or we're going to have problems," and that's what caused them to stop it. Because it wasn't her, because she's not a good captain. She's never been a good captain. She intentionally riles them up and makes things worse.
Yeah,
She
annoying.
sounds
I
really
agree.
fun. She's about as much fun as an ingrown hair.
Her and that Morgan chick both just
Alex
rile
Morgan.
them up.
Well,
Alex
there's
Morgan,
actually a
yeah.
really good video. There's a number of them. I was talking to Geodes before the show. I was really torn between this one by Don't Walk, Run Productions and one by Nate the Lawyer, because Nate the Lawyer has actually done 3 different videos on this particular case of breaking down why they got paid more no matter what way you look at it. I mean, I don't blame somebody for trying to get paid more money. Okay, what I do, because that's totally their prerogative. You can sue anybody for any reason, and you can say whatever stupid thing you want, hoping you get paid more. Fine, not my problem. But when the president of the United States is saying things about policy changes based on what is an absolute lie, then it becomes my business, and I start to give a crap. But it's okay because the U.S. women's team hosts its own Olympic opening ceremony. See, this is why these guys are a PR juggernaut. There she is. Look at how happy she is and totally not self-centered. Members of the U.S. women's national soccer team held their own private Tokyo Olympics opening ceremony Friday when they were unable to attend the official event due to preparations for an upcoming match. The soccer team's official Twitter account tweeted a video Friday showing defender Abby Don't Care and forward Megan Don't Care wearing their official Team USA ceremony uniforms and walking into a room at their hotel waving as if they were walking into the stadium. Does anybody feel like this is just kind of sad at this point?
Yeah,
A little.
It's an
they
embarrassment.
they couldn't go to the opening ceremony because they had some schedule conflict that made it impossible for them to attend the ceremony at the stadium. And the in times past, athletes would have said, "That's just the way it is. We'll accept that. Not a big deal," and move on with their lives in a classy way. These guys can't leave it alone. We're fierce. We're not going down. And that's. This is what you get. It's this kind of sad mugging of mediocre athletes.
I wish we could
this
afford the
is-
rights to I'm proud to be an American or something, because I feel like I need something to cheer me up at this point. Sora?
Can we pin Elowin's last comment?
We sure can. Which comment was it?
That's like having a birthday party for yourself and your teddy bear.
Actually,
that's
Elowin,
so
you're reading my
sad.
mind, because I was actually going to make a joke along those
Elwin,
lines.
that's an awesome comment.
Damn it. Get out of my head, Elowin. Okay. So,
More
That's a
tea,
really
Mr.
good-
Fuzzy.
let's see. Where are we? Okay, so we had that. and
No,
we
it's
had that.
sad.
Okay, but, in terms of the battle of the sexes and fairness, Senate committee advances amendment requiring women to register for the draft with majority of GOP support. Yeah, because why not? Is there any argument for why women shouldn't register for the draft? I mean, any good argument?
So, how many people do you think are going to rush out to get pregnant?
None.
That
Zero,
doesn't stop you
because
from registering.
Because registering for the draft in the United States is not the same as being drafted. And what it does is it puts your name in a pool of people that, usually in time of war, if we need to bulk up the army, basically, you can be summoned by your country to provide service to it. And when I was in high school, I got to meet the director of the Selective Service. His name was General Lewis B. Hershey. You can look that up. And I asked him, I said, what do you think about all these draft dodgers who are going to Canada? He said, they should be rounded up and shot. His exact words. His exact words. And we've come a long way from 1968 when I met Hershey, or 67 when I met him. There is no chance in hell that these women are going to be drafted. And I actually think this is an exercise in stupidity. It's nothing more than paying lip service to girls are the same as boys, that motif that we seem to not be able to grow out of right now. And it's really nothing more than that. It's kind of, I almost feel like saying to the world, sorry about our country. We're going through a phase right now. We'll be better soon. And hoping that's true.
I think it's kind of vindictive in a way. Because in reality, we have volunteer service, right? There is no sort of draft. If we ever got to the point where we needed a draft, we'd probably all be annihilated before anything could even be done about it.
We're not going to have that kind of a ground war. You're not going to have that kind of a ground war anymore.
That's the speed at which such things happen. I don't see a draft for men or women anytime soon. Anytime in the foreseeable future. That's not the way the world works now. But there are people who, when they say, well, we should have equal rights and equal pay. Well, women don't have to register for the draft. And a bunch of guys who normally would have said, yeah, we need to protect the women folks because then the men go off and the women are there to repopulate the species, or whatever argument you're going to make, right? They're just taking that argument away now and saying, fine, you want to be equal, then you have equal responsibility. So you get to register for the draft.
Yep.
And on the face of it, I don't really have a problem with that. But I think the reason they're doing it is really just kind of a petty vindictiveness.
Yeah. I would agree with you.
Well, there's one thing that I was reminded of. There's a news story when talking about this was, I don't know, 6 months ago now. They're talking about the what's the ethnic group in between Turkey, Iraq, and Syria?
Kurds.
The Kurds.
Kurds?
They're talking about the Kurds and their fight against ISIS and how it's winding down. And they did this whole thing on how the women in their military contributed and how they came to be seen in new light by the men and all this other stuff. And it was all a U.S.-based news thing. And it was one of those things where I was like, with the way that this narrative has been pushed, and this article is a perfect example of this. On the one hand, I had no problem with this because, they probably did have to step up and actually, get shit done to a certain extent. So I can't say that I was just, I was happy to see that, they did what they needed to do and fought back some really evil people. On the other hand, I'm listening to this whole thing that's drafted up by a U.S. news group, and basically thinking the whole time, it's like, this is the only reason they're even really interested in this is because of the big feminist push in this country. That's all it is. And that kind of pissed me off.
No, I understand. So in the interest of time, because we are about 10 minutes behind schedule, and I'm sorry, that's on me. That's my fault. You guys didn't do anything wrong. I just wanted, just as a bit of a palate cleanser, to show you this meme where my husband has just had a pay raise, which is lovely. But I can't help notice that in the past 10 years, his salary's increased 87%, while mine has increased 18%. I've spent most of that time working on curing cancer. He's been calculating your car insurance. And then you scroll down to the first anonymous response that says, is cancer cured yet?
Yeah, exactly.
God does.
Why is this allowed? She's literally curing cancer. This dude works on car insurance. Okay, shut up, everybody.
Well,
So,
it's also
Functional, are
how
you
much
ready to
is
talk
his-
about your thing?
I was gonna say, it also depends on how much her actual salary is and how much his is.
Yeah, we don't even
But-
know if these are real people because the internet is
Oh,
dumb.
Hey,
So,
man, God bless the internet.
are you prepared for
Sure,
the next 45 minutes? Because I guess there's a thing to talk about, and I'm singularly unqualified, so I'm handing this over to like Functional and Serenity, and I'm just gonna like interject and ask questions as they come up. So you take the floor, Functional.
For sure.
No
So,
pressure.
most people have heard by now, at least in a passing way, that some big news has been going down with Activision Blizzard. And just to give you sort of people who don't know the players involved, Blizzard and Activision came together in 2011, 2010. They were two of the biggest juggernauts in the gaming development world. Only rivaled now by pretty much EA, Electronic Arts. They're the two biggest juggernauts. They're worth about 72 to 74 billion on the stock exchange right now. They have games that have multiple records, like most players online in a collective game, most copies sold of a video game, almost all contributed to World of Warcraft, one of the biggest games ever of all time. And so I'm going to read a little bit out of this article because of all the articles I found, this one seemed to be the most straightforward, direct, and condense things into these are the facts. Most articles seem to go the route of like Gamergate or Black Lives Matter or Me Too, where they're just calling for heads. There's no objectivity, and I was really surprised because I do read a lot of this author's from Forbes, Paul Tassi's columns, because he does do that from time to time when it's something really important. He tries to be as objective as possible, or at least his editors are holding those reins back, because he tends to be that sort of very lefty soy boy kind of person when he's talking about more fluffy things about things. So we start with Activision Blizzard lawsuit alleges horrific mistreatment of women. A 2-year investigation by the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing has resulted in a lawsuit that is moving forward against Activision Blizzard for what it is deemed, quote unquote, frat boy culture at the company in terms of how it has treated women. Sort of looping back to a comment I made earlier, people. Reading the text of the lawsuit, it's clear that the description is severely underplaying what's alleged to have happened here. The filing document has just been made public and is full of not just instances of infuriating discrimination and sexism, but at least one truly horrifying story that stands out in particular. Content warning for descriptions of sexual harassment, assault, and suicide follow. So what types of allegations are in the lawsuit? There's the workplace issues where they allege women were denied promotions, raises, or even equal pay despite overperforming their male counterparts. And again, I have to harken back to a comment I made earlier about how this has been a traditionally male space for a long time and still very much is. It's only been very recently that women are making big break-ins, and in the departments that they're making these big break-ins, Serenity?
How do you want, huh?
What we were talking about earlier. It's mostly in things like advertising.
It's
not as much in the tech aspect, although there are women who do make strides to, be innovators for their gender in those avenues.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, as with everything, there are the women who make it and make it purely based on their actual worth, who are actually worth it. But they're like me or like Sora. They're girls who've kind of grown up in the video game thing, so they're used to it. So they understand that the bravado that men, especially in games, have is not malicious.
It's mostly just friendly bants.
Yeah.
Although you're using very colorful language.
Yeah.
There are lines, there are boundaries, but generally those are known of and kind of respected.
Yeah, and then there's the women who come into it, either they, and I'm trying not to be too mean when I say this, they're the women who have basically been told they have to go into something that's technology or math or engineering, and they pick what they think because they don't understand it, what they think might be the easiest or the most artistic, and they fall into this thing where it's kind of like they're so used to, because as Skep pointed out a long time ago in this, there's more women in college. So when they're in these situations, when they're in developing video game classes and stuff like that, or coding classes, they're used to being, there's actually a lot of women in those classes usually.
Especially, again, a lot of the artistic fields are typically dominated by women. So a lot of like asset developers, there's a lot of women in those departments.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. They're used to being around women, but then when they go to these big companies that have been around for several decades at this point, or at least a few decades, you have it still being predominantly men because they were the first ones to get there.
And they've been there for a while. Like a lot of the people being named in these lawsuits, they've named names, are men in their mid 30s to about early 40s. Whereas these women, they're fresh out of college, et cetera, et cetera. So when that first point, there was one example where the person alleging that they were discriminated against their promotion had been at the company for, I think, a year and a half, where the guy who was friends with the person obviously in charge of that decision, they were friends and they'd worked together for about 8 years at the company at that point. And so I kind of understand it might not always be fair, but do you go with the horse you know, even though he's been that long drawn out workhorse? Whereas this newcomer to the company, yes, they've had very great successes in that first year that they were in the company. In fact, that first year compared to the person who actually got the promotions first year, and this is all like supposition but released, and the information's everywhere, so I'm trying to keep it as concise as possible. But but he was promoted, even though on paper she had better reviews and whatever for that last year.
So
go ahead.
I'm going to step in here from a not part of the boys club point of view of gaming. Okay. Right. Purely on an HR basis. You are going to open your industry to women because the law says you have to, because if you don't hire them, it's discriminatory, okay?
Especially in California where they can get fined.
That means that the sector you're now working in has to adapt and change. Doesn't matter you've been working like this for 15, 20 years. It's not going to work anymore. This is not the military. This is not life and death. There's new technologies and whatever. Unfortunately, the old Dogs Club no longer works, which sucks. And I understand where it's just like, hey, before we were allowed to have a sense of humor, and now we have to walk on eggshells because we don't know if we're going to get slapped with a harassment charge or fired because someone says that we said something nasty to them. Okay, so it's a balance, but you can't have these things. So if these allegations are correct, like some of the ones where okay, I've been passed over, I was denied a raise. Well, in your contract, your employee handbook, does it state how long you have to work before you're allowed to have a raise or before you are acknowledged? It doesn't matter how much you work up to that point. Is there a minimum that you have to achieve before? Are you promised a breastfeeding lactation rooms, and then you're the butt of the joke because you're using them and they kick you out of it, like they allege here in workplace issues? If they're doing this, then they are in the wrong. I'm sorry, they're on the wrong on a purely HR basis. It doesn't matter that, oh, it seems stupid, and some of these criticism we roll our eyes out because it feels like it's Gamergate. I'm sorry,
it really does.
Here. Because, and these things like I refuse to communicate with them and whatever, if that is, I mean, that I will roll my eyes out. If you have an employee, or sorry, a coworker, you are trying to finish a project with, and they're not communicating with you, and they think they're, I'm only going to talk to your partner who's a male. Well, that's easy. Ice them out of every single thing. Cut them out of every single email. You do your work. You present it to the board or whatever you have to do. And then when they start freaking out, you say, well, I'm sorry, they're not pulling their weight. grow a backbone, and at that point, ignore them. Fine, there's ways to go around doing this. However, when you are, and you'll see there's horrible stories that Functional is going to bring up in a little later in this article. These things seem to be true, that things actually happened because of what feels like a poorly mismanaged HR in this place. And
There's
if you're
definitely
just,
some of that, yeah.
yeah, and it's bad. And if that's a minimum of what's being alleged is happening, this place has to hire an outside HR group. Sometimes that is the solution. When you have had a close-knit group of people working and you are being forced to change the way things are because the work culture is no longer the same, you have to adapt or die. And now what's happening is your name is being splashed over the space. Now, they might not be feeling the heat because, as mentioned, they are like the top developer out there, or one of the top developers, and whatever. They're holding a stage in protest in World of Warcraft. Wow, that's really going to make them do anything, right? Like, big deal. But maybe enough people out there will make a media noise. It might not hurt their bottom dollar necessarily, but it'll be enough to throw some mud at their face that they might be forced to change some stuff.
It might be good to switch to that article now as well.
Well, I mean, yeah, we've kind of got on a little bit ahead, but I wanted to get to a little bit more of the serious stuff because, yeah, my ears kind of perk up when they use certain language to describe these things, like Sora mentioned, breastfeeding women being kicked out of lactation rooms so meetings could be held in there instead.
But that's
when do you have a lactation room that, like, when Serenity and I were talking earlier, it seemed like maybe this woman wanted more privacy than the designated breastfeeding room.
Well, the thing is that if there was a breastfeeding room, right? Like, and I'm guessing in this case, they're just pumping for storage, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that they have the
Probably.
child with them, right? It's
the issue.
You're being told that this is the space and this is what it's going to be used for, and suddenly, you are. It almost feels, and I hate to use this. It's soft language, but that violation of you safety almost. Now, however, you could technically use a washroom for the same thing. Is it as sanitary? Of course not. But women have been doing that for like decades, or however long people are being, pumping. I don't know. I don't have
Pumping.
however long pumping from work has been a thing, right? You find ways to do it without these rooms being put in place. It's not a necessary perk of the job. However, if it's offered and it's a part of that contract because that's part of your employee manual, like, this is why I'm saying it's a HR nightmare more so than just like men versus women. I would say look just for that purely alone, they've screwed up. Those people who are the ones who are pushing in and doing everything, perhaps they should be, if they're the ones who are buddy with the HR, if what is alleged is true, don't complain to HR because we're buddy, and that can very well be true. I've been in that position where a supervisor of mine was buddies with the HR, and no matter what you said or how you said it, I'd be the one in trouble. I very much believe that's very possible.
Yeah. I hold on before when Serenity and I were talking about the article, my ears perked up and I said to her, it seems to me like this woman just didn't want to be in the lactation room because there were other women there. She wanted ultimate privacy. So they probably said, yeah, you can use that meeting room if we don't need it or whatever. I looked it up, and this is only another part of the allegations, but somebody who actually worked at Blizzard, an employee, on their own social media, I don't have the tweet handy, but they said that was basically the case, where she just wanted to use a separate room to have complete privacy. And they said, well, we needed this room for a meeting. But you could use it, like before, they said you can use it if it's not in need of.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the sort of, there's a lot of he said, she said in this case, and I don't really want to harp too much on it. I mainly want to draw attention to some of the related narratives that we've talked about tonight and over the course of the show. So quickly, just to get over the more serious sexism and harassment claims, there were three main points that people are talking about. One, there's documentation of what's called cube crawl, where male employees drink copious amounts of alcohol and harass and grope women. They don't say what the documentation is. It could be photographs, video, somebody just wrote it in their journal. We don't know yet. And there were also claims that there were women involved in this. Like they were, at the time, seemed okay with getting drunk at work and doing stupid shit. Again, these are young people, fresh out of college people to mid to late 20s. Hormones are raging, alcohol's flowing. They have cushy, like, jobs that well, maybe not cushy jobs, but like dream jobs to work in an industry that they love. And it seemed like and this is just supposition, but it seems like, again, similar narratives of regret. And I'll leave it at that. Male employees publicly discussing sexual encounters, speaking openly about female bodies and joking about rape, where we heard that before. Female employees, and yes, like you said before, Sora, if there is a boundary being crossed that generally normal, well-adjusted people think that's a boundary you shouldn't cross, then yes, that could be a problem. But it does, again, seem like a similar narrative to other cases that have been brought up in the news, like with Gamergate, etc. And lastly, female employees discouraged from taking harassment issues to HR, given that members of HR were close to the harassers in question, which we already covered. So it doesn't seem like there's a whole bunch of harassment there. One thing that he leaves out of the article, though, is there is one big alleged tryst between one of the female employees and one of the team leads, where they had a relationship. Apparently, they broke up, and apparently there were nude photos of her that were spread around the office, and eventually they were on a company retreat, and she killed herself. That may have led to, taking drastic action, but, there seems to be a lot more behind the scenes that we can't know of that led to that built up to that point. Because a breakup can be a really big emotional blow to someone and push you over the edge like that. But the courts have, with the court has decided that isn't a part of the case, because there's no way to prove that. So they're leaning more on the claims of sex, even though that is a tragedy, no matter how you slice it, kind of bad. That if you feel that if that is true, that your workplace is so toxic like that you have to go and feel that your life just isn't worth living anymore because of it, that's tragic, and nobody should feel like that in their place of employment. So what have been the responses from people? As I said, most articles, videos that I've seen on YouTube, people covering it, it's a lot of the similar stuff that we heard with Gamergate and Me Too, where there's just a lot of hyper-reactionary, knee-jerk reactions. Everybody wants to send all these people to the chopping block right away, no due process. Let's not cut corners here. Yes, these are pretty big shitbag people we are talking about, but everybody deserves their day in court, no matter what their other decisions in the corporate world have been separate to this. But one server, there are multiple servers, probably about 120 servers in total, with hundreds of thousands of players on them. One server staged a sit-in the main city where they were doing a protest against, and what the terminology they used harkens back to the feminist language that we've been hearing of, frat boy culture, boys clubs, these kinds of things. And they had this little protest. There were 40 people in the city. They opened up a charity. The videos of it have been getting thousands upon thousands of views. They're raising money for Black Girls Code, a nonprofit that helps women of color break into the tech industries. They raised $3,500, so that's good. They're trying to make some good out of this, even though they're what is actually happened. I missed it.
I was just referring back to some of the 4chan stuff that they did. I was referring back to the pools closed thing.
Okay.
Because that's how you stage an online protest.
Yes.
And a lot of people on social media have been saying, well, I'm done with Blizzard and enough of this, but they're still playing the game. And yeah, when you have a game like this that's a subscription base, a lot of people, the majority in fact, since they went this route, they'll buy a 6-month or 12 months of subscription at a time, and that's about half the player base. The other half pay month by month by either normal means through cash or through in-game currency that can be traded for credit towards time. Yeah. So
that is where it becomes a failure of this kind of protest, because like you said, if you've already paid for a year or 6 months, you're not getting that back. There is no refund policy. You've already paid it. What are you going to do? Not play? Okay, well then you've just wasted $80.
Well, with a game like Blizzard, a lot of it's like money speculation in that their concurrent player base, active players, says a lot to the shareholders and investors in their stocks, saying how successful is this game going to be in the future? It's just something very tangible that they can look at, just like currency speculation, in that, okay, that money's going to go up, the value of the company is going to go up because we see these trends. So even if they stuck to their guns and they quit WoW, even if they have a 6 months or 12 months or what have you left on their account, them not logging in will if there's that many people, it will show them, we done fucked up, because their responses to these allegations and the filing of these court papers have been very cookie cutter, very corporate, very sterile, which, I mean, with a company that big, you can't really blame them. Another thing I wanted to sort of bring up, because we love Gascon, our favorite DA from the state of California, who's done a lot to show the bias of the courts of California to a certain, shall we say, political kind of leaning. Hasn't been just, shall we say. And they tend to be quite messing up their legal system on the I keep wanting calling it a province on their states, in their state courts. Whew. Sorry, I went on for a long while, but this is something that's been really big. It's really important, whether or not you play the games themselves. This could end up being another one of those things that changes the corporate landscape, whether for good or for bad, and another big story in whether or not justice can play out, given what we've seen in the past. Excuse me.
In a lot of ways, it's a terrible job, though.
And I meant
they have to deal with crunch time, and they have to deal with all the stuff. I've known people who've worked as animators and game developers, and working for these big companies, it's not great pay. It's a lot of work because everybody wants to be in this business, or at least they think they do until they work in it for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and then you're working, 6 months straight at 16 hours a day trying to get through this crunch cycle of getting a game or a series or a film released. And men seem to, on average, handle that style of work a little bit better than the women.
Yeah, I think that's a testament to the common sense of women.
Yeah, well, they're the smarter sex, right?
Well, this whole thing, and I absolutely agree with Sora. My issue with a lot of this stuff, and if this was 15 years ago, and they went to HR, and we all know they talk to each other about this stuff.
Mhm.
Allegedly, if this allegedly happened,
Mhm.
they would know HR is not doing anything. I'm going to say this for the ether, for the internet, for everybody. If you are being sexually harassed or being anything or racially profiled, any of this shit, stop fucking going to HR.
Law enforcement.
Go to law enforcement, especially if it's sexually harassment or anything racism or anything like that. The breastfeeding woman, you don't have a meeting in a lactation room. Like, they're too small. So she was in a meeting room and she got kicked out because they had to have a meeting. Oh, poor baby.
That's what it sounds like, yeah.
Talik said it truthfully with the criticized for the body language. It's like, if you respond to a raised eyebrow the wrong way, you're either a racist or a sexist, and you're screwed.
And like we talked about before, a lot of these guys, like I said, they're younger men. They're man children. These people are generally awkward, not very good around women. Doesn't matter what they look like, attractive or homely or what have you. These are very awkward, but very, very hyper intelligent and capable people with tech, with things, objects. They're not so good at people in general. You throw women into the mix, they kind of get a little... So body language, sure, yeah, it can be entirely misinterpreted.
Well, and there's also the fact of, there was the article that came out maybe a couple years ago where it talked about men no longer want to take women as apprenticeships and all this kind of stuff because of the threat of being threatened, that they were saying they were sexually harassing them.
Mm-hmm.
The issue with the male employees refusing to communicate with women, asking male counterparts for information instead, it could have been either they were afraid they were going to get hit. I'm not saying that it's right if they just did this knee jerk, but it's one of those, it's like if HR talked to them and said, hey, the so-and-so didn't like this joke you said, you need to watch it. He may have, because I know I overcorrect sometimes and go too hard to the other side. He may overcorrect and just talk to the male counterpart, so this way he doesn't take the chance of the sexual harassment stuff. A lot of this stuff, until we get more evidence, a lot of this is hearsay. Like, a lot of it is.
You want to look at this and say, God, I hope this isn't real. But if any of these things that are more egregious are real, hoist them the fuck up. Yeah. Throw them in a dark room and throw away the key. Like, it just... But you really hope that it's not true because, God damn.
But the truth of the matter is, if this stuff is happening and it is happening to that egregious of a scale, and I'm not talking about the pay thing. The pay thing you can't take to the authorities. Sorry. But if it's racism, sexism, homophobia, or anything like that, especially in California, where there's literal laws.
Revenge porn with that.
The revenge porn, that shit. That motherfucker should have been tied up and thrown out the fucking door. Whoever released that.
And the thing is that very likely you're never going to work in that place again. You just won't be. That's the payoff. Once you go to the authorities, you may or may not get any sort of help, but you've gone through the right channels. And I think that is what's weighing on their mind. They're 20-something years old, and you have to choose between, well, I may have to change careers. Well, you're still young enough to change careers.
Yeah.
You've just started into one, but it's very possible that nobody tells them that. Nobody has told them, or they don't have, I don't even know what you'd call it, to like you said, Serenity, to just go to authorities, like the wherewithal. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
logic.
Well, it's like, and like I said, if this was 15, 20 years ago, I can understand them not going to law enforcement, but we've seen enough of these stories.
Time and time and time again. And it's not like they're small stories.
And it's they had to have run into this stuff. Like, so at this point, like, it's just needs to be said and always needs to be said. If this is really happening, going to the cops, getting it, like, set in the system, even if they don't find anything or are unable to investigate in that way, they still have to keep reports on this stuff. So it creates precedent. So this way, if other people show up, they can go, hey, this other person filed the same thing. Oh, I wonder if this is the same thing we have to investigate.
Yeah.
Like, it like, this just...
There's too much back and forth. He said, she said kind of shit. And, that's all, like, I have for now I'm going to keep my eyes on this, and when more facts come out, and what can be proven, what can't be proven, we'll circle back to it. Just to close it up, Skep, Harry, I know you guys aren't too familiar with like video games and all this stuff, but like
they run on electricity now, right?
They have them
like
on the internet
Pong?
now, which are on computers and telephones.
Is that stick with the cup and the ball and the string?
No, it's ColecoVision. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I like that
Because I
one
think-
with the hoop and the stick where you run in the
Because I think I'm not wrong when I say, yeah, men in these traditionally male spaces, tech, video games, animation, what have you, we're welcoming to women. We want women in our spaces playing our video games beside us. And the ones who integrate, who amalgamate into that space, as opposed to coming in there and going, oh, I don't like it this way, change it for me, are the ones that are causing this stink up. And like Prospero says, feminism has only managed to make the women weaker and make these spaces less inviting.
That's the
for
truth.
everybody. Anyway,
yeah. I mean,
moving on.
bottom line, guys like the cool chicks that know how to hang out with the guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely
met my
known plenty of women
serenity?
like that, and then there are some women who get advanced into comics and then have Milkshake Gate, and it's like, oh, just give me a break. You're just so
And
far
Muffin
in out of your
Gate and
depth.
Cupcake Gate.
It's like
and
it's a
Lollipop Gate.
job. You need to animate things well. Make comics that don't look like shit.
Harry,
And,
they're just trying to milk it
How
for all
dare
it's
you
worth.
oppress
God. And I can't think of
Milkshake
a
brings
more
none of the boys to the yard.
meritocratic industry that deals with entertainment than the video game industry. If they fail hard.
Oh, and by the way, as far as talking to HR versus not talking to HR, Minions of the Zoo does not advocate telling you not to talk to HR.
And we do not
Remember,
provide
it
legal
only
advice.
looks better on your crime/legal report when you sue them to show you've gone through all the steps that they failed to help you.
Yeah.
The key
Go
thing
to
is
HR.
document. You got to
Yes.
document. You
Yes.
document everything, whether you go to HR or not. But you document. You get evidence. You make sure that other people know what's going on. If there's people that you work with that you trust, sometimes going to HR and establishing a paper trail is definitely the right thing to do. If somebody has done something that rises to the point of being illegal, because there's a lot of stuff that in an employment situation is not kosher, right? And that's the kind of stuff where in a civil suit, they're going to get their pee-pee whacked. But if it's something that's actually criminal, like somebody has committed some kind of sexual crime, in terms of groping or doing something else, even if it's just a misdemeanor, you absolutely can go straight to the police. If it's an illegal action in the sense of somebody violated you, as an assault, you should absolutely go to the police and don't worry about HR. But if it's just a hostile workplace environment, the police are not going to be able to help you.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, go to HR. If HR doesn't do anything, like literally doesn't do anything,
Start documenting it.
document, and then if it's already at the illegal point, talk to the cops.
Minions of the Zoo officially endorses documenting things.
Well, it's like
Documenting things is the one thing we can endorse. Yes.
yes.
I don't know if
Forward
Reject is still in the
any
chat. I'm just
email.
trying to get her attention.
But like Prospero said several other things that are very, very true. It's like, if you believe in microaggressions, don't go to work with a bunch of guys, because
Ain't that the truth?
and then she also reiterated the same thing she said, what we were saying, which is don't talk to HR only.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sora, are you ready to talk about fashion?
Yes,
Okay.
bring on the boobs.
Well, I mean, she, no,
All right.
that's
You
not-
David
So we
Bowie.
can get rid of this. We can get rid of this. Okay. So Bella Hadid covers breasts with stunning golden lungs necklace by. Okay, Serenity. How do I pronounce that?
Schiaparelli.
Schiaparelli. Yeah.
Schiaparelli.
Yeah, that's how you-
Schiaparelli. Bella Hadid turns heads during the Cannes Film Festival Sunday when she arrived wearing a statement piece unlike any other on the red carpet. Hadid, 24, rocked a stunning gilded brass necklace inspired by the human lungs by designer Daniel Roseberry for Schiaparelli's Fall 2021 collection. The piece is described by Schiaparelli as No,
Good luck
I'm
with the
not
French.
reading in French. Golden something lungs rhinestones. Okay, so let's just bring up this picture, and there we go. And Sora was telling me that it's really not that bad, and I'm just being made.
I really like it. I think it's fun.
Would you wear it? Where would you
No,
wear it?
because it's not for me. This is haute couture for a runway, or for a red carpet, or for Cannes, where she is. It's exactly where she should be wearing this. If it were for the black dress, where it's actually very, very pretty, and the way she's made up, anything slightly more over the top, a bit more avant-garde, should be at the Met Gala.
Oh yeah.
I think it's
great.
trash and it's money laundering.
I love this kind of stuff. And it's fun to see because so many starlets and other people like that wear the boring dresses, and it's just like, I only watch or flip through magazines to look at the clothes. If you're gonna wear JCPenney prom dresses that cost $2 million or whatever to these things, I'm not gonna look at you. I don't care. It's like you have a job. Your job is to be a clothes horse. Show me something pretty. You fail to do that, then I'm not gonna look at you.
What do you find pretty about this?
It's not necessarily well. Okay, you take her, Bella Hadid, and I like Bella Hadid and Gigi Hadid. I think they're pretty, like physically, features and everything. They're very pretty. They can make
They paid a lot of money for them, so yes.
Yes, but I just think it's really cool. I like the idea of the necklace. It's just something different, and it is perfect for a red carpet kind of fun thing like that. Now, the one thing I will say I don't particularly like is I don't like chains. So the way that the lungs are attached around her neck,
So that's what you find objectionable about this?
Yes.
the chain around her neck. Of course, that was my initial reaction.
Okay, so you think this
really
is classier than this?
I like Alexander.
No way, man.
Look at this!
Jesus
Look at
is
this
awesome.
majestic mammal. He is wearing exactly the right thing with a chain at the right place, and he is majestic.
I can tell Sora's a fan of Alexander.
Boy.
She's a fan of Alexander McQueen and like Vivian Westwood and stuff like that.
The problem here is his chain is too big.
Yeah.
Chest hair Jesus approves.
I don't like how it sits. That's my issue with the lung necklace. Is like I would have like
it's taped to the nipple.
Yeah, that's what it looks
Band-Aids
like.
that
It's
she's wearing.
Have it form fitted or something. Like
This would be
looks like
hell
it
on
just,
a cold day. On a cold
why-
day, this would not be good.
What is the temperature in Cannes right
If you were inside, it'd be okay.
It'd be hot right now. It's a
hot.
beach resort.
Yeah, it's 71 degrees right now. So yeah, no, poor thing. But that's that chain on her neck, and especially I hate her hair because it looks like a mullet. It looks like a really fancy mullet.
Wouldn't those like broccoli tops be like scratching her boobs?
She is most likely got it's called a lot of
Pasties?
different names, but like tit tape and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
usually
Tip Band-Aids.
And she
Yeah.
doesn't have boobs. There's barely anything there.
there's almost nothing there, and it's probably all augmented. So I'd be amazed if she has feeling.
I see some under boob.
Make
Well,
the
yeah, no,
world
you-
your lactation station. No,
But
What?
it's I love her earrings.
We don't have any meetings.
Her earrings don't go with the necklace, but her earrings are beautiful.
I think this is a bit much, but in terms of class,
She is a fashion model.
this is nothing compared to what's about to come.
Uh-oh.
Oh God. Oh,
NFL's
God.
Dwayne Haskin proposes
God,
to
that ugly
girlfriend
piece of shit.
with huge ring. This is forever.
He's already cheating on her. He's got a baby
Dwayne
with somebody else.
Haskins
That's
may
what that
not
ring
have
means.
Super Bowl bling yet, but his now fiance sure has something close to it because
look
the
at that
NFL
package.
QB proposed to her this weekend with a huge diamond ring. The Steelers quarterback shared footage of the proposal on Sunday, and it all seemed like a very sweet time. Now, it's it's like a diamond ring where the ring is made out of diamonds. There's nothing.
I
It's
think
all
it's-
diamonds.
I think it's an engagement and a wedding ring set.
Yeah, it
I
is.
don't
looks
think
like they
that
come
really
apart.
changes things in a fun.
Very true, but it doesn't make it makes it a little
It's
bad.
so-
He probably went to
exactly
the.
Prospero looks like cheap glass shit. Exactly
Yeah.
what it looks like. This is
Of course, it was a
garbage.
towel.
Do you know the?
Okay.
Do you remember those little like
course it
Blade
was so
Warrior
crossed.
things where they had the rip cord that you pull out and the thing goes
Yes!
spinning?
Yeah.
It kind of makes me think of that
Beyblades.
actually.
Beyblade.
Oh God.
Diamond
okay.
Beyblade.
Haskins,
Yeah.
his girlfriend Calabria,
Calabria.
K-L-A-B.
Calabria.
Calabria.
It's,
God.
it's collab.
Calabria.
Calabria
Call it
and
collab.
family and friends were out partying at TUER restaurant in Las Vegas when the former NFL first-round draft pick got down on one knee. DH pulled out this gigantic ring made by celeb jeweler Zoe Frost, and Calabria's reaction was priceless. She smiled huge and said yes, and everyone went crazy. All my life, I've prayed for you, Calabria said of the moment on Instagram. My favorite
'cause he's
dream
rich.
come true. Unsure on how much the ice cost Haskins, but remember the 24-year-old former Ohio State superstar has made a little over $14 million since his NFL career ended in 2019. Now, this is a lot of money.
Is this a tax
That's a half a
evasion
million dollar
Probably.
worth of ring if
Yeah,
it's a
I mean,
penny.
this is the thing that I've heard some people talk about is that they really need, as part of the NBA and MLB and all of the different major sports leagues, that when you get these guys, some of which haven't even gone to college, the first thing you should do is put them through a money management course and maybe
Yes.
give them like a free money counselor to sort of help them, because
that
his
your second
income
idea
stream
is much
could
better
stop.
than your first.
Well, I don't care about the implementation. I just think these kids are completely ill prepared for
Yeah.
Yes, you're
this
absolutely
kind of wealth, and any woman worth her salt would just go, "Oh, honey, bless your heart, but no, take this back and bring me a plain titanium band." This is
Yeah.
not the woman that
Or-
you're going to spend the rest of your life with these
Well,
kinds of. Or they deserve each other in poverty, and I'm sure she will not be in the refrigerator box with him when they take everything and he turns into MC Hammer.
If you look at her, like her hair in the
Oh.
first picture, she does not have good taste when it comes to stuff.
No, but
No.
It, like Serena, you like Zoe Frost's jeweler.
Yeah.
page.
Oh
I
boy,
I looked through that too in preparation, and it's just
it's
he
ugly.
is making bank out of morons.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
how
Yes,
Well, I mean,
he
it's
is.
tried
Yes, he
to-
is.
To the nth degree. He's making grills and
Oh,
blinging
yeah.
up all sorts of metals and other nonsense. A lot of a few copyrighted like
Bambi,
character things.
Wolverine.
It is just I hate that
And
kind of cheap shit.
I think in
What a
100
waste of
years,
diamonds.
I think in 100 years, the people alive then are going to think it quaint that we celebrated people getting together by giving each other rings with rocks on them. And they'll say, "What kind of rocks were they?" "Oh, they were the diamond. That form of carbon." "Oh, yeah, the stuff we get from the asteroid by the cliff load."
Well, it's-
Diamonds are done, guys. Don't invest in diamonds. This is not investment advice, but if you invest in diamonds, I think that's a very risky investment. That's just my personal opinion.
I'm going to try to not be too mean here, but you also have to consider the cultures that these
Mhm.
people tend to come from. And
Yeah.
even if you got them a financial advisor, do you really think that they'd listen?
That's why I
It's a tragedy, but
You
I mean,
cannot
there's only so
teach
much you
them.
can do.
you cannot teach them, but you almost feel like you need to have someone with power of attorney over their money. And
free
and
Britney and
somebody who is
control these guys.
basically a guardian, a financial guardian for these
Yeah.
guys. That's really what
Yeah,
you would have
Britney's
to have.
father is
Yeah,
will help
conservator.
you out.
Well, I mean, parents generally don't make good conservators like that.
No, they don't. They don't. Well, the thing is like
Small conflict of interest.
the whole
Yeah.
like the entirety, and it's most of these like NFL, MLB, all these kind of people. Most of them live in like 4 cities. They live in New York City, Atlanta, Los Angeles, and then it can kind of vaguely bounce between Chicago and like Houston or like something like that, even if that's not the state that their team plays in. And there are literal, especially with Los Angeles and New York, like this was like this 10 years ago with Jacob the Jeweler. Like there are like just people just waiting to prey on these, because I guarantee you like half of those are not real diamonds, because he's not going to, because there's no way that jeweler's footing out that bill before he gets the money from him, and even then he's not going to do it because he's going to try to make a profit, because Jacob the Jeweler got caught doing that. He
Have
got
you
caught
seen the
there.
YouTube guy that goes around like testing
yeah.
people's ice on the streets with the little
I love
diamond
it.
tester? And the people who like, yeah, man, I spent like 50 grand on this, and it's like, dude, that's glass.
Yeah.
That's not even real diamonds. And
Oh,
the
that's
face,
so
the
sad.
faces on some of these kids, they're just like,
No.
oh my god, I just
Yeah.
pissed away.
And that's the thing, like
sad.
that,
And all you have to have is a piece of glass.
and even
A piece
that.
of glass and a quartz crystal, actually.
Well,
you can really prove out a lot
The
of diamonds.
crystals tend to look better. Cubic zirconia.
Yeah, they do. They
looks
give light better. They give light.
Well,
a
they don't.
lot
They don't
better.
have any occlusions in them. That's why they look better. They look sparklier.
Well, it's like
Mhm.
the main large diamond. I don't think that's real. I don't think it's real for a second.
Yeah.
It doesn't look right. And it-
You would be surprised.
They're shitty Instagram pictures.
You
Well,
would
this
be
is not a great
surprised that
photo.
there are a lot of big diamonds that are being held back, like by the Kimberly folks. I've been reading about this recently. They are finding big diamonds and salting them away because the market is getting just overwhelmed right now. So
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't doubt that that's actually a diamond that they were happy to take his money. No, they sold him a big diamond and they've got them to sell. They have them to sell. Trust me.
Oh, yeah,
They
no, I
probably
know
just
they
marked
have
it
them.
up by
They're
about
trying to support the
50%.
price right now. Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying. But
Well,
yeah,
we have
no, it's
one,
like
we have one more thing. One more thing before we say
this is
goodnight.
great.
Did you have anything quick
Nope.
on this one? Sorry. I just felt like we were running out of runway there. Hold
I feel
on.
like the Rock needs to
All
add
right.
something.
Ow!
Ooh!
Okay. Oreo just released new kid repellent packaging to help you stealthily hide your snacks from your children.
I love this.
This is
awesome.
fantastic.
The fort on the side, riced veggies. How to cook for children.
Yeah, this is great. I love this. So basically, it's packs of Oreos that look like things like cookbooks and food that they don't want to eat, so that nobody will go looking for your Oreo cookies. This is good marketing.
I
This
just
is
love
how
this
to-
so much. I love this so much.
It is
Yeah.
so cute.
But I like the
This is
cookbook.
awesome.
The cookbook one is the
Yes.
one I love.
Yeah, with the Better Homes and
Yeah.
Gardens. check.
Yes.
Yeah, isn't that
No
great?
kids touching that.
That's Mom's cookbook. You know.
Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
why would I look at that? Ooh.
It smells like Oreos.
It's
And
just
it looks like
Brussels
it was
sprouts
started
again.
by that tweet too. Kids in here stealing my Oreos. We got your back.
We got you, boo. It's not even the good Oreos though. It's the Oreo thins. I'm insulted.
Actually,
Well,
the,
I mean,
the Paul
look
Newman things, the Numinos are actually a lot better.
Oh, those are amazing. Yeah.
Those actually taste like something. The ones with the ginger cookies and the shitty cream filling, those are pretty good.
Excuse me.
This is untied.
Serenity, it's actually genius because you got to think of who the target market of the Oreo thins are.
The
Typically
keto-eating bitches?
older, middle-aged women, and
I'm on
obviously with
keto.
kids, they want a helicopter parent. They don't want the kids to eat the snacks, but mommy can have her 2 Oreos a day,
Oh boy.
kind of
I'm
thing. I don't know. I'm making.
Oh no, I'm just thinking all the
They're
ketosis
not bad.
idiots out there. I'm on keto. It's like that's not going to do
I
shit.
generally
sweetheart.
hate mint and
I'm
chocolate,
a
but the
vegan.
Oreo mints,
You know,
double stuff?
Oreos are
Fuck
vegan.
yeah, boy.
Oh god, yeah, Oreos are vegan. No, baby.
Ugh.
I love the fact
Ugh.
it says Hanes and Ford and everything.
The Hanes, the Ford, yeah.
Riced veggies. This is a great idea because it doesn't
Yeah.
cost them hardly anything to put this together.
Yeah.
It's fun. Nobody gets hurt. It gets people talking. This is like perfect. This is like perfect
Good
advertising.
Good.
I-
advertising.
Not
this
quite
is
as
probably-
perfect as having somebody really funny run your Twitter account and your public social
Yeah.
Or
media.
super guile.
Well, see,
Yeah,
it's one of those
super
things.
guile.
I have a pretty good feeling that they're gonna, like, this is gonna end up in some kind of TikTok trend. Like, let me see if I can hide it from my kids. Like, it's something. It's gonna end up in it somehow because TikTok always
Yeah.
does this shit.
Of course. Well, that brings us to the end of the show at the 2-hour and 19-second mark. Does anybody have any final thoughts they'd like to share with the crowd before we go?
Never say final thoughts to me.
Okay.
For tomorrow.
Have you anything else you would like to share with everybody else this evening before you go to sleep and then wake up refreshed?
Go back to your tomatoes.
I'm about ready to give up on humanity.
Oh,
Ooh,
There's
fun.
just too
Yeah.
much silly.
Oh,
They had a good run.
They had a good run. They were good back in the day, but like me, they're over the hill.
Well, thank you, Functional and Serenity, for putting together the video game thing, because I'm totally
Thank you
not
for having
qualified.
it.
Neither am I.
Anything else, Geodes, Sora?
Nope, I'm good.
If you want a
And-
really
and-
nice engagement ring, go looking in the vintage.
Oh yeah.
market. There's
And then
some
send it to
beautiful
Sora
stones.
Luna at P.O. Box.
P.O.
Not gonna
Box,
marry
Canada.
you. I just want your ring.
No, she just wants the jewelry. Yeah.
Exactly.
There's no
Diamond
promise
Send
of
it to
marriage
Sora
here.
Luna, care of Canada. Put lots of
Exactly.
postage on it.
Mooseland, Canada.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put this thing to bed. Good night, everybody.
Good night,
The zoo's
all.
closed.
Good night.
Good
Good
night,
night.
everybody.